strength. So strength is now also a combination of elements, two elements still, combination of fire and air. Now we're in the elements that are more cooperative with each other, more what in traditional tarot elemental dignities would say they're dignified. It's a dignified pairing. Whereas all of the pairings up till now, the Chariot, the Lovers, the Hierophant, the Emperor, that's a 3 element, so it doesn't count for now, and the High Priestess, and that's also a 4 element, so it doesn't count for now. But all of the 2 element pairings so far, going up the majors, have all been either neutral or ill-dignified pairings. And so now we're starting to get we've harmonized those dueling opposites in the Lovers, and we've directed those dueling opposites in the Chariot. Now we can come to the dignified opposite, dignified pairings. So they're no longer opposite. We can explore one side of the opposite a little bit more, and then we can go back and we can explore the other side of the opposite. So strength is the 2 elements commonly associated with masculinity, or attributed as masculine elements, even though again there's really no gender association with the 2. In fact, strength, we know, is usually a maiden with a lion. And so it's showing the strength, and there's a tension. There is still tension between action and thought, mind and doing, air and fire. But they're not so volatile necessarily. They're powerful. Action and thought merging together is powerful. And there's a strength in that, but they're not so volatile in the same way that water and fire are. And so we have in 8s, again, there's a kind of tension in 8s where we have 4 of one, 4 of another, and so there's a balance between the 2, and we have a balance of 2 stabilities, 2 4s, and that creates balanced tension. In traditional cards, the maiden holding the lion's mouth open, taming the lion. She's not overpowering the lion. She's working with the lion, within its capacities, and she's finding the strength within herself to work with the lion's forces. So she's using her intellect, her mind, her air qualities to tame the ferocity, the fieriness, the activity of the lion, and they come together in this kind of harmony and friendliness. It's a kind of friendliness. So there's power and there's strength in it, but they're kind of cooperative. They're of the same type. And air and fire, fire and air as elements are considered dignified because they feed each other. Air feeds fire, fire feeds air, or fire. As fire consumes air, it actually creates other gases. So if we think of air not so much as oxygen, but as gases, it turns things into gas too, and it burns gases. So we'll get a little bit into that with later with the sun. But there's just that they're dignified elements together, and that dignity creates a kind of strength. That doubling up of conducive elements gives a kind of strength. I will, though, say that it's interesting, again, in male-female polarities, where we're now working with the 2 masculine elements, but the traditional figure is a woman. So there's still a merging of masculine and feminine, and so it's recognizing the masculine aspect within all women and the feminine aspect within all men, which is a little bit more the hermit. So the hermit now, again, two element combination, and again, we're in a more dignified two element combination. This card I love in terms of where the traditional symbology merges with the abstract. The hermit, the shape of it, the nine circles, it's very much like the hermit's lamp. It's like he's kind of holding the lamp and the lamp is hanging from his hands. And then we have the six-pointed star in the middle and this radiance from the center outward. And then we have, I've talked about this a fair bit in other videos, because it is one of my favorite cards, how we have the hermit entering the cave, entering the retreat of his own being to explore his feelings and his sensations, the sensitive world, the world of intuition and the subconscious and the deeper mind stuff that's associated more with the body and sensation and less so with intellect and thought. And at the same time, though, the hermit doesn't retreat just to retreat. The hermit retreats to discover himself so that then afterward he can go out again into the world and share that light that he's discovered within through his lantern with the world. And there's kind of a practicality to self-discovery. Whereas the Hierophant, there's kind of, it doesn't necessarily have a real world purpose. It's kind of spirituality for spirituality's sake, which has its place. It's a stage that's necessary. But the hermit is seeking that spiritual aspect of himself that can then be applied to his daily existence. And that daily existence may very well be as a hermit, just living in his cave and drinking and eating for himself. It's very solitary, but it's also less theoretical. It's more in the realm of what is my being, and not the contemplation of things. So it's a little bit more grounded, a little bit more earthy, a little bit more real, in a sense.